Hi guys, this is the original tutorial built in DCS by Polyshop for the Kiowa Warrior to launch the Hellfire AGM 114K. Okay, we start. We cover this kind of launch in lock-on before launch mode, so lasering before launch the Hellfire and go on. The first thing you have to know, some operation could be done in pilot side and some in copilot. That's it. Okay, so first thing first, bind this view cockpit, occupy pilot seat and occupy copilot seat. First thing you have to bind. Set master arm in armor position. Master arm is there and I've binded this on the pilot seat. Remember, now I change co-pilot seat and I have to bind also the laser on in there. Now I have to go to the MMS. This is the laser panel of the Kiowa. Clicking on it, and then I have to set the code. The default code is A letter is the default pre-charged code on the Hellfire, and 1688. One click and you go there. If you go to multiple click, you have to return to this value. 1688 alpha. Okay, and this is the code set. So switch laser on, MMS for this, and RNG key for that, and go on. MS code used to designate target is a missile guided by own MSS. Instructor note, as I said, the letter A is the default, so go on. Now this is the next tab. Weapon select switch, left or right. We have Hellfire mounted, 2 Hellfire to the left and 2 Hellfire to the right. So I'm moving to the pilot seat and select with this kind of control. I show you the bind. This is the first armament control panel, master switch armed for the master arm on, and the weapon select switch left for the left pylon, weapon select switch right for the right pylon. You have to bind these two. Okay, now we select and you see launch standby. Okay, so switch launch standby to manual, more symbology. Now go to manual. You see more symbology in this panel. The diamond is the Hellfire Seeker. The B is the status of Hellfire, and the lower part indicate our 4 Hellfire and the code charged on the head of missile. So on the screen you can see constraint box, HF status, Hellfire silhouettes, the mess line of sight diamond, this, and the HF seeker cross. Okay. Structure node has 2 laser PRF core primary and alternate, and by default are A, the previous 1688 code, and B by default. Go on. Constraint option has 2 modes. Normal, Hellfire launch when in constraint, so when guided. Override Hellfire may be launched without meeting launch constraints, so you could launch the Hellfire without lasering, without painting with laser, but I don't know how to let the Hellfire go to the target in this way. The constraint box is dash when constraints are not met, so dotted this constraint not met, and when you see solid, the constraint condition are met. So when is not dotted, when it's solid when you go to lasering a target. Press constraint button on the left to see both option, then set it to normal. Okay, so you click there and you go override and come back to normal. Instructor note: after the launch of the first Hellfire, the constraint box will change to solid to dashed because the symbology is switched to the next Hellfire. So you laser, solid, launch, and then switch to automatically to the other, to the next Hellfire, and come back to dotted. Launch key cycle for mode. Standby mode used to set missile code, so you have to have this in standby when you change the code of the missile. Manual: all Hellfire coded with primary code, so the A code. This normal: Hellfire coded in setup page, so you change the setup code of the missile, only primary code missile will fire. And ripple: Hellfire coded in setup page, missile are fired with alternating laser code, so by default is B, the alternate laser code. Okay, so launch that and set to manual. This is the different scenery. In manual mode, all missiles are using the primary code letter by default. We know that. Delivery key toggle delivery mode. Lobel locked on before launch. Direct, so you lock and then launch. The missile, the Hellfire follow your laser targeting. Direct, no lasering. LO, if you know the Apache, that called LOL, lock on after launch low, and high, lock on after launch high. Global mode: target first need to be painted and designed with your MMS that is laser, or by another unit laser. So another copter could paint your target with laser at the same code. Is important. If the other copter doesn't use the same code, it doesn't work. Press delivery key on the left to see all options, then it's set to global. Okay, delivery key. HF minimum range for 4. We are not in this minimum range. I think this kind of HF minimum range. This, and come back to lock on before launch. Okay. Instructor note: the low mounted missile can be fired without first detecting the laser source. This requires setting a reference point first. We're not covering this tutorial. Notice that Hellfire are armed with laser code A selected, and that one of the missile showing ready. Okay, in this A is the primary code and ready. Press the vid key to bring up the MES video feed. Vid key is working for all kind of weapon, and when I click, I see the video feed, that is the TV camera on the MMS. You see the radar in the upper part of the copter. So place the MMS in manual sub mode by pressing MMS manual slave mode. You have to bind this. Sub mode is not visible on sparse weapon page. Check the MMS page on the left MFD in this, but I not found this slave manual mode, so I bind it. And this is this bind. We have all the time changed to copilot and pilot. This is annoying. MMS manual slave mode. This is the bind to slave and the slave the MMS. And by the way, I've done for the laser missile too, but you have to bind the MMS line of sight left, right, up and down to move the MMS tracker. You see, now is manual mode. When I move this, this is moving. You see? You see this moving. Okay, come back. When you slave again, if you want to bore sight, you have to slave and deslave. I will show you. Sometimes could happen the MMS doesn't point bore sight. You don't remember where it point. Could be possible, especially when it is zoomed. What you have to do is to slave and deslave. Let me show you. Slave and the slave. Okay? And you have board side again. Now we go on. Place the MS manual submod by pressing manual slave, and this is manual mode, so you can. Another thing you have to bind is the narrow and white fob. It's a strange bind because the Kiowa has two kind of type. Narrow 2 pair to 4 pair, and white 2 pair and 4 pair. You have to bind twice both, and it's more simple to show you than to explain. Now look, I'm moving and I use the 3 narrow preset. 1, 2, 3. This is the narrow, and every time I press narrow key I have this effect, the system cycle in the narrow scenery. Otherwise, if I click the wide key, that cycle on 3 wide preset. 1, 2, 3. Respective, if I click the wide 1, 2, 3, and then narrow 1, 2, 3. That cover all the scale. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay? Very, very accurate. Okay. Then slew the MS down to the switch for narrow. Hold the fire laser button. Another thing important to bind. I have binding this in 2 kind of method. One is a button. Okay? A button on my throttle, a front button, that I push and release when I want to manually control the firing laser. And then I bind a switch that is constantly pressed. So you have to get the distance. I press once and you see the distance here, 4,506 meters. Now I point again. For instance, if I come back to the zoom, I move there. Look this, I point, and this change, you see? About 2,000 meters. If I want to track continuously, I use continuous lasering just by binding a switch. Okay, so simple. So I bind the switch, and now clicking. Now I have hands free to move, and this continuous lasering. How can you see that it's lasering? Just check this. If it's in this situation, dotting, flashing, okay? If it's flashing, the measure, I'm lasering. If I stop lasering, it comes solid. Okay. Now, go on. Hold the fire laser button, select target. Status of H should change from ready to track. Status is there, okay? Ready here. If I start lasing, it's flashing, and you see, track. TR key is tracking. Okay. The constraint box should now be solid. The constraint is solid, you see? Okay. And check the range to target. Save the distance is less than 8,000 meters. We are less than, because it's 4,000 meters. Okay, and now this is the a little bit difficult part. Just because you can't firing the Hellfire, or I don't know how to do from the copilot seat. I don't find bind to fire Hellfire from there, but I'm sure I missed something. Anyway, now you see you can release button. We release, and then las again in a while. Okay. Time of flight is displayed above range to target. After launch, we'll count down to 0, which should be the moment of impact. Hold the fire laser button to laser target until target is shot. Don't release the button or Hellfire will most likely miss, will every time likely miss. To launch the missile, press keyboard enter or fire weapon second attempt. Okay, we have binded, but second attempt, you see. If you search Copilot, search. If I search for fire, you only see the fire laser, and fire laser could be done only on Copilot seat. If I come back to pilot, this is fire weapon second attempt. Okay, you have to bind. So you have to track laser here, and then fire from there. Laser target until the missile reaches the designated point. Try it now. Okay, and we try. So I'm zooming a little bit. I start constantly lasing. I move to the pilot seat. I launch the Hellfire. I come back here and lasing again from there. Hellfire not so fast, but I hope it works. Okay, splash. Perfect. So you have to move from the Copilot site to the pilot site, shot the Hellfire, and then come here to track again. And splash. I don't know why I can fire from Copilot. Don't know. I will search a little bit more. Now, go on. After the impact, slew the MMs to the next target. Launch another missile. Repeat until missile or target are depleted. Few pieces in advice. The Hellfire can engage moving target. Okay, remember you can use point track sub mode for the MMS. So you have to bind the. Oh, sorry. You have to bind the. Oh, no, sorry again. The point track. I am in Copilot, and point track is MMS point track on. You have to bind this. When you bind, I will show you what's happened. You lock this, bind, and voila! It's moving, tracking the target. Okay, stop lasing. Stop lasing. Okay. It's possible to fire next man. The first one is still in flight, so you can fire another, but remember the laser come only where you're lasing. So if you shot 2 missiles, you have only 1 laser in per time. Could be a problem. After launch, only your MS needs an uninterrupted line of sight. Interesting. So you can ghost the helicopter, and show only the MMS on the upper part to get more covered. At the line of sight, only of the MMS has to be clear, because the missile drops a little immediately. Stay at least 15 feet above the highest point within distance of 200 feet in the direction of fire. So pay attention when you cover yourself. Exit lesson. I'll start again. Okay, spacebar and remove. And now we shot for the last time. So, I'm targeting, I start lasing. An important thing, when you push the laser, we show you, push the laser, lasing, and move to the pilot seat and release the push button, it continues to lasing. This is interesting. Anyway, I'm using the switch for lasing, and when you come back to the copilot seat, continues again to lasing. Anyway, I use the switch button, then I'm moving here, solid, tracking, constraint mode normal, launch, manual for the A code, and delivery lock on before launch. We're locked, ready, fire. And this is our Hellfire. Continuous tracking. Splash. Wonderful. Okay. It seems a little bit simple than the Apache H74. It's very, very great method for Kiowa warrior, and this is a really, really aggressive helicopter. Wonderful, wonderful done. Okay, guys, thank you for watching this video, and I see you to the next one.